Hey, what's up? I'm Eric. I'm a US Ultra Running Certified Coach, and today's training video is about how long should my longest run be leading up to my first 100 miler. I'm going to go over two scenarios that are very common. A person who has more than 6 months to train, like 6 to 12 months, and a scenario with a person who has less than 6 months to train. And then at the very end, I'm going to go over three very important items that you might want to consider for your training for your first 100 miler that are crucial to like nailing the whole training plan, and they are actually more important than the longest run of your training. So with that being said, let's get into it. Scenario number one: a person who has like potentially up to a year to train for their first 100 miler, like over 6 months. So we're usually like in that like 8 to 10 month window, up to 12 months. The reason I want to go over this first is because, one, you have more time, and then you can actually get a longer long run than what I recommend for people who have less than 6 months. And the whole totality of the training, it really doesn't make that much of a difference, other than like a little mental edge that one person might have, doing a longer training run than somebody who has less than 6 months. But from a physical fitness standpoint, we're all going to end at the same level. Just there's two different scenarios with people's time allowance, so I just wanted to go over that first. So up to 12 months, the longest training run I like to recommend is a 50 miler or a 100K. And the reason I do this is because we have so much time. I want to target this longest long run about halfway through my training, and this is what I recommend the athletes that I work with, and what I've done personally too when I've had a long window. That a 50 miler was the longest training run for one of my hundreds, and I put that smack dab in the middle of my training. So I had 6 months to build up to it, did my 50 miler, and then from there just really doubled down on the stuff that was working, which I'll go over in scenario number two, less than 6 months. And the reason I recommend 50 mile or 100K is because you get the advantage of somebody who doesn't have that time, because you have more time to recover, and recovery is just as important as a training. If we're not recovering well, we're not going to train well, and then everything we're doing is just going to be super marginal gains instead of like being really effective and efficient with our training and getting larger gains. So but we treat this 50 miler or 100K as a training run, then that's very key. Like, we're not going out there and trying to win, unless you have that ability. But I like to really stress with the people that I get to work with and coach that these long runs, using races as a good scenario for like a race day event. Not only do you get the benefits of an aid station, and you get to learn how to like be efficient in and out of aid stations, but you also you have that aid, so you don't have to develop like a loop that you come around to over and over again for your nutrition or hydration, or carry it all on you, because an all-day effort doing a 50 mile or 100K, you're going to be carrying a lot of water and a lot of food. But I like to use races as my longest long runs if possible. So especially for a 50 mile or 100K, because then you can really, one, you have the mental advantage, or not advantage, but just like that mental comfort of knowing like, I've already been to 50 miles. I've already been to 62 miles. Like, once you get there in your first 100 miler, that you've already been there, you know what your body's going to feel like, you know what your legs are going to feel like, you know what your stomach's going to be doing around this distance, and so you can kind of navigate through it once you get there. The first 100 miler I ever trained for, which is going to be kind of like scenario number two, my longest run was a 50K, and once I had passed that 50K mark, I was like, man, this is new, uncharted territory for me. So it was kind of new, it was neat, but I didn't know what my body was going to do like around mile 50 or around mile 60. So that was all a new experience for me. So with that being said, let's get into scenario number two. I wanted to jump on here real quick and say thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. But before we go on, I want to take 1 minute to invite you to join the My Endurance Life Trail and Ultra Running Mastermind. It's a group setting class where you get to sit down and meet today's top athletes, other coaches, legends of the sport and learn from them and gain the knowledge that they've acquired through years and decades of trail and ultra running, so you can apply it to your training. Not only is this going to save you months and possibly years off of your training experience for whatever goal you're going for, but these little tidbits and these little nuggets could really be the difference between a DNF and the finish line. So again, go to minderslife.com, click on the button that says join the team, and I guarantee this will blow the doors off of your trail and ultra running experience. So scenario number 2 is people who have less than 6 months, usually like that 4 to 6 month window of getting ready to train. And this is assuming that you are already a runner. That you're already running, 4 to 5 hours a week, hitting some trails here and there occasionally, and now you're ready to like step up and do that 100-mile distance. So maybe you've already done a 50K too. Running an ultra prior to your first 100-miler is not a prerequisite. You don't need to run a 50K, like a sanctioned 50K or a sanctioned 50-miler or something like that leading up to your first 100-mile race, because what I'm going to go over at the very end of this video is more important than the longest run is, and that's like the milestones through your training that is actually going to get you physically fit enough for that 100-miler. So, but as I mentioned before, the longest training run that I ever did for my first 100-miler was a 50K. But what I recommend, and what I still recommend, and what I still do, this is actually the scenario that I follow. This, like I said, this is somebody who is already running, already has that base aerobic foundation built, and now we're just, doubling down on that and getting ready for the 100-mile distance. So either an 8-hour long run or a 50K, whatever comes first. And I like to do multiple of these through my training because a 50K or 8 hours still gives you enough time to recover. We're going to do this on a gradual build. So we'll build, do that long run, and then we'll have a recovery week. And then we'll build, do that same long run again, and then have a recovery week. And that will be like my peak training going through it. So 50K, 8 hours, whatever comes first. And this is what I recommend for the athletes I work with, like athletes who are already trail runners, already have done a couple ultras, and are now ready to, step up and do their first 100-miler. And depending on the elevation profile of your race, we want to mimic that as closely as possible during these runs. So during your 50K or 8-hour run, let's say you're the race you're signed up for has an elevation profile of 10,000 feet. Over 100 miles, you're going to go up and down about 10,000 feet. So that's an average of 100 feet per mile. So you're going to want to really dial in a loop or a race, find a race that's similar to or slightly above that 100 foot per mile distance average. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That way, when you show up for your race, you're not going to be like, oh man, like I didn't train on any hills or anything like that. But in hindsight, if it has a lower elevation and you go out for an 8-hour run, you can knock off maybe 40 miles in that time, because the more hills, the slower you're going to be going. So just keep that in mind when you're developing or looking for a race to sign up for that is similar to the elevation profile that you're going to be doing for your 100-miler. So 8 hours or a 50K. And actually, on this last training block for the Stagecoach 100 that I just did, the longest distance run that I did was 33 miles. And that took me just over 7 hours, and I had an elevation gain loss of about 7,000 feet. So that was the longest distance run that I did leading up to the last 100-mile race. And this 100-miler was the best one that I've ever ran. So we don't need to run 50 miles or 100K to get ready for a 100-mile race. Just want to stress that. A lot of times it's like time allowance with our family, with our responsibilities, this, that, or the other. It's hard to fit in a 12-hour day to go run 50 miles or a 14 or 16-hour day for a 100K, whatever your pace is. So before we wrap this up, I want to go over 3 points, 3 important milestones to be keeping track of during your 100-mile training. And this is actually more important than the distance you're going to hit. So like I said or mentioned before, that I am a US Ultra Running Certified Coach, and this is, this is something I already practiced before I went through the course, but this just really confirmed to me that putting in the hours is a lot more important than putting in the distance. And so what USCA recommends and is 9 out, so 6 weeks of 9 hours or more per week of running. And what I like to do and what I see my athletes getting the most benefit of is actually getting closer to that 14 or 16 hour week for peak training. If your time allows you to get 14 hours in, great. 16 hours, great. Any more than that, depending on how your body's feeling, is totally like just up to you. But around that, this is all my opinion. And of course, when, if you work with me or you work with another coach, just be completely honest and open with them about how you're feeling, because 14 hours for somebody might be too much. But for somebody with more athleticism or more time in their day, like depend on our jobs too. If you are on your feet all day or in a construction-based industry, you might not need as much hours per training because you're already moving around and walking around all day. But somebody who has a desk job or isn't on their feet all day, that they have to get in these hours one way or another, where somebody who's standing all day might have that just lifestyle advantage over them because they're already built up, used to standing all day. So, like I said, I like to work up 14, like 12, 14, 16, and then I do another 16 week, after recovery week, then 14, 12, leading into my taper. So, like I said, a 6 week window of 9 hours plus, ideally working up to that 12, 14, 16 hour mark. Another thing that I like, cannot stress enough, is on your long runs, during these training runs, during your races, you go out on a pace that is an all-day pace and rate a perceived effort of 2 or 3. So that means that when you finish this long run, especially if you're doing that 50 mile or 100K or the 50K for the 6 months or less people, that when you finish that 50K or that 8-hour day, that you feel good enough to keep going, potentially doing it the same run over again. Like really, so as soon as you phrase it that way, it changes the way you're going to approach this run, thinking like, okay, I'm going to go run for 8 hours. When I finish this run, I want to feel good enough knowing that even though I might not want to, I could keep going for another 6 hours or another 8 hours. Because come that 100-mile day, that's what's going to happen. And so a lot of people, what I've noticed too, even work with my athletes, is we'll say, okay, you have a 6-hour long run today, and they'll go out and run it at a 50K pace. Well, a 50K pace is not a 100-mile pace. So at the end of that 50K, they're beat, they're dead, and it's like, be like, okay, how'd it go? And could you do that 50K over? And it'd be like, no, like I'll wear myself out. And they're like, okay, obviously you went out too hard. So on the next run, the next long run, we want to dial it back, really focus in on creating that all-day pace at just a run hike, a jog hike, a walk breaks. Like really dial in your 100-mile pace on these training runs. Even if you're using a race as your training run, like don't worry about your finish. Don't worry about your ultra sign up like percentage standing. Like just go out there and focus on the task at hand, which is that 100-mile race. And last but not least is we are working on nutrition and hydration, practicing, testing, changing all throughout our long runs. Whether it's a 2-hour long run or an 8-hour long run, we are testing, trying new things, and really figuring out by the last long run that I have scheduled on my training plan, whether it's a 4-hour long run, a 6-hour long run, or whatever, that this is what's gonna work for me on race day, knowing what my body needs and when my body needs it. One of the key things I know for me is that as soon as any negative thought enters my brain, I eat something. No matter how small the negative thought is, whether it's like, oh, my little toe hurts just a little bit, boom, I'm gonna eat something. Or even as big as like, why did I pick such a stupid sport to like? Like, if I quit, I could be done. And then boom, I'm eating a lot more or something like that. But I've noticed with me and a lot of the people I get to work with that negative thoughts are a result to not eating. And as soon as you start eating, that everything changes, your mood lifts, and you just get that extra carbs or sugar or whatever you get in you just to keep going, keep moving, and attack it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helps you along your 100-mile distance. Be sure to subscribe, all that stuff I'm supposed to say on YouTube, and really hope to see you in the Trail and Ultra Running Mastermind. Like I said before, you can get there by visiting myendurancelife.com. Click on the button that says join the team, and you can get face-to-face live Q&A with myself and our special guest. Stoked on you. Keep going. You can go further than you ever thought. Rethink possible with My Endurance Life.